Okay, if you guys can hear me and see me, say hi because today we're doing a portfolio review. And if you're here on the channel for the very first time, let me tell you a little bit more. So, this is the channel of the Fashion Photography Podcast, but this is not the whole thing. So, if you want to listen to all of our previous episodes, and there are, by the way, a lot more than 340 episodes, you can simply go to photographypodcast.net and find out our interviews with some of the top artists out there, photographers, stylists, makeup artists, all of them right there on photographypodcast.net. And this is what happens every Wednesday. And what we are doing every other Friday is that I'm giving you some little tips and tricks. And who am I? I'm Virginia White. I'm a fashion advertising photographer with more than 12 years of experience behind my back and some amazing clients, like, for example, Elle, Bazaar, Huawei. Ask me more and I'll tell you more. So now I can see that there are some people already watching, so don't be shy. Say hello down below. And as I promised on our Facebook group and also on Instagram, there is something exciting coming up. So stick around because there is something interesting that I want to share with you, and that I'm very, very sure that many of you will be super happy to hear about. So yeah, guys, stick around and say hi. Let me see, where are you based? And while I'm waiting for you to answer this question in the comments down below, I can tell you a bit more. That, for example, when you go on photographypodcast.net, you can also find who are we, the people that are actually delivering the fashion photography podcast for you. This is me and George, but you'll be able to see a bit more on the page of the fashion photography podcast. Again, photographypodcast.net. And you'll also be able to see an option to subscribe to our newsletter, because this type of reviews, they're completely free and they're for our newsletter subscribers. So if you want to be in a portfolio review like this, all you have to do is to subscribe to our newsletter. There you'll also be able to see a little donate button. You don't have to donate. If you feel like you're learning something, if you feel like you want to support us for all our efforts, that's gonna be amazing. But if you just want to support our show, but you don't have the possibility to do it right now, all you have to do is to just share this YouTube channel with more and more people, because this for us is going to be amazing. And of course, subscribe to the podcast, leave comments, leave likes, of course, because this is really helping us with these very interesting and very hard YouTube algorithms. So let me see. I can see that we've got some people from Miami right now. What's the time in Miami, Patrick? I might have to resubscribe. I haven't gotten any notifications from the photography podcast since the Instagram review. Okay. So maybe you need to resubscribe for some reason, or maybe you can look at your spam folder. So you got this. I love you guys. You're so cute. Okay, we've got Montreal. Hello, Germany. So you guys are all over the place. 12:30, okay, afternoon. That's awesome. Okay, so you've got to know that there is a little bit of a delay, so just keep that in mind, because when I ask you a question, it's gonna take a little bit of time to reach out to you, and then your answer will take me some time to get back. So okay, I think we're good to go. Hong Kong. Oh my God, we've got Hong Kong people here. Belinda, so good to see you. Awesome. We're basically almost on every continent now, huh? That's so cool. Okay, guys, so now is the time to share this YouTube live with all of your photography friends, because as I said in the super short live that I did on Instagram, I think it's super amazing to do things and learn from your mistakes, but I think it's even better when you don't even have to do mistakes, when you don't even have to fulfill a whole project, and you can learn about it from listening what other people can say and do for their projects. I've got something interesting going on with my hair. Can you see that? Okay, so today I'm gonna go over just four projects and four. I think it's more than four projects, but it's for sure four people, because I'm sorry, very sorry, guys, but my allergy is still very severe and I don't really feel very well. So I think this is going to help me focus a bit more. We've got some people from the Netherlands here. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so I think it's going to be exciting. But as I said, for those of you that really want a portfolio review, you can guys subscribe to the newsletter on photographypodcast.net. And yeah, there will be some cool news for you guys. So stick around. Let's start with the very first project. And Diana, I actually saw that you're here, which is so awesome. Okay, I hope that you're going to stick around for the whole review, but let's see what we've got here. So you have sent us something that wasn't really following the guidelines, but we decided to stick to it because I think there are some really good things that people can learn from the feedback that I'll give to you. So I love this project of yours. It's actually out of 3 images. The initial point was for you guys to send a whole project of 10 images or just 3 different photos from 3 different projects. So let's see what we've got here. We've got 3 photos from one project, which is fine. Like, misunderstanding can happen, so not a big deal. So I love this photo shoot of yours because, as I usually say, hey there, yeah, please, just one more thing. Try and stay active in the comments, because this is so cool. Because otherwise, I feel like I'm talking to myself and it's kind of crazy. So, guys, be active in the comments. And thank you so much for that beforehand. I love this project of yours, Diana, because I love red on red particularly. But I think it's also very good for people that are a little bit out of their comfort zone when we talk about color, because this, what we would say, is monochromatic, because there is just one color that is dominating above every other color. So this is a super easy exercise for everyone that is not feeling very good shooting color. What you did here, I think it was just amazing execution. What I would suggest for the next time, because I can see, for example, that you have highlighted just a tiny bit the eyes of your model, I think it's going to be better if you just make sure that your light is a little bit brighter on the top of her face than on her legs. This is one thing. And there is another, yeah, people love it. Can you see that? Awesome, awesome. So there is another thing that I would really suggest. I like the posture, because it's something that it's super, this position exactly is super easy to use in almost every fashion photo, because it's showing the clothes in a really nice, very flattering way, especially when we have so much fabric. So you've got to show it, and I think you've executed it just awesome. Okay, so the one thing is a little bit more light on her face. And then maybe you're asking, how did I recognize that you have highlighted a little bit the eyes? Well, look at her hand over here. Look at her face. And you can see that there is not much light here anyways. So the eyes are not supposed to be that bright, though she has beautiful eyes. And then look at the chest. They're even lighter than the face. Then go to this hand. And I know that hands are usually very reddish, but if there was a lot of light here, they would have been a little bit brighter. So you have covered up the red on the hands better. it's a good job. I think you can work just a tiny bit more on it when you just bring a little bit of yellow. I think this is going to go great, especially with this color on her face. But there is another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and it was this leg. Can you see how much red there is in it? So when we shoot color in the color, and when we talk about red, I think it's super important to know that maybe you are going to need to just tweak just a tiny bit the reddish on every limb that your model is showing. I think this is super important because we've got a lot of red on our in our skin. So in order to make sure that your model is not just part of the background, you need to make sure that she's popping up. So there are different approaches to this. So first thing, you can simply bring up a little bit the yellow, or you can try and do something else. You can try and go for a white color of skin, very, very white. So pale is the right word. Sorry, I'm not native. So pale skin, I think, can work great here too. So this is pretty much for this particular photo. Another tiny thing is that maybe I want to show a little bit of waist because I can see that there is something very specific about this dress, and that is that there is actually waist. So maybe I want to just move around this hand that she has and show just a tiny bit more of waist. I think that would be helpful. Do you guys have any feedback? What do you think? Can you enable super chat so we can donate money? I honestly have no idea if I can do that because the channel still doesn't have a lot of followers. So right now, I would be very, very happy if you can help us a bit more on the gaining subscriber thing. So appreciating your comment because it's so amazing and it's just so nice. But there is another option. You can go to our Patreon. It's on photographypodcast.net. Over there you can see it, and you can subscribe, and of course we're gonna give you something back because we really appreciate our patrons, and of course everybody who is listening to the podcast, basically, because without you guys the podcast wouldn't have been the same. So this is an option for you, and thank you so much for mentioning this. But now, guys, all you can do is to subscribe and share the podcast, like, push this notification bell, do whatever you can to just help us to reach more people. This is going to be amazing because we're forming a great society over here. And I love this. Everybody in the Facebook group is just so active. And if you're not part of the Facebook group yet, just tell me in the comments. So I'm just going to drop the very secret name of the group. So, guys, I was wondering, Diana, what do you think about the feedback that I gave you? Is it something that you have thought about? Is it something that maybe someone else told you? Is it something that you're going to think about when you're doing your next photo shoot? I agree about the skin. Okay, perfect. So that's what said. That's what Diana said. So today I've got a lot of talking. So I've got my supplies of water over here. Mm, okay. Let me just do that because for some reason it got really, really bright outside. Okay, so let's go to the next photograph. It's again photograph part of this project of yours. And I really like the fact that we can see more than just one image because this way, you guys know when you're sending an image for a portfolio review, everybody, including me, is going to pick the best image of their project. But when you've got to send three or the whole project, we can basically go over each and every image and just discuss why and what we could have done better, which I think is amazing and very important. So, Diana, what I would say about this image is that I'm not very sure, just as a viewer, where do you want my attention to go? Is it supposed to go to this beautiful object, or is it supposed to go on her face that I'm not seeing very well, or is it supposed to go to the cloth? that I'm also not seeing very well. So for the next time, I would really suggest you to think very carefully about that, because right now my eye is just jumping from one thing to another, and though the image is beautiful, it's not something that will grab my attention if I'm just scrolling through different images. So think about that very, very carefully, in my opinion, the next time when you shoot. And this is the final image that we've got from this particular project, and it's my favorite one. I love it. I really, really love it, because look at her face. Look at those eyes. She has expression. I can see the beautiful glasses, which instantly makes it fashion. It's not a portrait anymore, it's fashion. Also, I can see this beautiful object, but I think that, you know what? I did something. I did an experiment. So I looked at the image when it was a small one, like for Instagram, that I'll be able to look at my phone. And then I had no problem. But I also looked at on a big screen, and on when I'm looking at the big screen, this blurry part is kind of distracting to me, but not when I'm looking at it on my phone. So this is something important, and that I feel like we need to say, because when we talk about images, and when we're talking about critique, if we're using this word, or when we're talking simply about feedback, I think this is super important, that the viewer, the person that is giving you this feedback, should know where this image is supposed to go. And when they know that, they can give you the proper feedback. And now I can tell you that on a big screen, it is a little bit distracting to me. If it's on a small one, it wasn't a problem at all. The only thing that I've got for you about this image is, again, to be a little bit more careful with this secondary color that we're having. Like, for example, here I can see that it's very reddish still. And also, look at this. Can you feel that? It's also very reddish. So I would definitely get rid of this part. Make it equal as color to this one, or to be fair, more to this part, because it's darker than this one. And I would simply, because I'm a little bit of perfectionist, but that's just me. It doesn't have to be you. I would also fix this part, because I can see the stitching, or whatever it's called. And for me, that's a bit distracting. But this is what I wanted to tell you for this particular project of yours. And let's just go over the images and take a final look. There's just, yeah, very important thing. Now that I'm looking at the three images next to each other, almost, I can tell you that this, for example, is much, much darker than this one. And if I have to put them next to each other, then I'm not sure how to do it right now. Um, you can see that there is very big difference. So when you put the images next to each other, and if we talk about an editorial, let's say, it's very important to make sure that the light is kind of almost the same, especially when we talk about studio work. I find this very important. So look at this one, guys. I'm going to try and do the best that I can for you to see them next to each other. Okay, it's possible. Can you see that? Look how dark this one is and how bright this is. So these are two very different shades of red. So I would definitely suggest you to bump up a little bit the color of the one on the left. So if you let me do that, I can show you right now what I would do and what my method is going to be. If you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments. If you're not, that's fine. It's your image. You can do with it whatever you like. Okay, guys, what do you think about this particular photo shoot? About the feedback on the photo shoot? Do you like it? Do you have something to add to it? Diana, was it helpful for you? Do you want me to do this bump or not? Okay. And while I'm waiting for your questions and comments, and guys, by the way, even if it's not your photo shoot, if you have a particular comment or a question that you would like to ask, like for example, you're about to do a photo shoot like that, um, be active, ask away. Don't worry. I'm just gonna do this with my hair because it's driving me crazy and it's super, super hot. Let's see the difference. Adriana, I would love to show it to you, but Diana needs to give me the permission because it's her image. Okay. And have you ever guys ever shot a red on red? I was really up for it before the virus and I was planning on it, but with the virus situation everything was just postponed. Photos are good. Okay. I think there is a lot of consistency, actually, to be honest. I think the step between having this as bright as this one is just so simple. So consistency in this particular photo shoot is just so easy to bring. Um, okay, Dan is giving me the permission, and what I do, my type of work would be to simply go to curves and just bump it from here. Okay. And you can sort of kind of see that it's looking much more similar to the one on the right. Of course, there is right now, because I'm using curves, there is a lot of contrast. So you can just try and get rid of it. But even with this super tiny thing, you can see that her skin is going pale right away, which is so cool. And there is also something else. I don't think that you should be afraid of having a little bit more contrast. This is important because, especially in a photograph like this, contrast will give you this magic, a tiny thing that will do the magic. So if you can see how dark it is right now and how bright it is, and similar to that one. Of course, you can also touch up the right one if you want to, or if you feel like you need to. Even now, I think the editorial, if it's an editorial, is looking great. I think that you've done a great job, to be honest with you. But we're here to make it even better, right? So that's the whole point, to become better basically every day. So, okay, guys, we have given a lot of time. So I think it's going to be good to go to the next person. Let me go over the comments though. Okay, is it important to maintain the same red color in both pictures? It is important as long as, for example, if we talk about editorial. So looking at this particular project, this is a good example of a spread on a magazine, let's say. So if you put them next to each other, people will be able to see them next to each other. And if I'm sorry, if you see them like this, there is you can probably sense it. There is a little bit of they're just not the same. It doesn't look like it's the same editorial. So for example, if right here you look at the skin is a different color than the skin over here. So even when we talk about light, okay, it has to match, but also you have to make sure that the skin color here and here is also matching, because when we talk about editorial, we talk about a complete piece. And if we talk about different images with the same model for, let's say, your social media, it's totally fine. Like you can make it the way you want them to be. But when we talk about editorial, yeah, it's important for them to look um, the same. Okay, thank you for the review. It was cool. Recommendation. I try to do my best next time. Awesome, Diana. In my opinion, you've done great work even right now. But yeah, as I said, the whole point is to make it better together. So yeah, and to grow. Very useful feedback. Thank you, Richard. I imagine these are the things that a customer would look for. Absolutely. So maybe your customer wouldn't be the person who is particularly looking at the image and be like, I want this to be darker, I want this to be lighter. But the consumer is very, very sensitive. So they can simply sense that there is something wrong. Maybe they cannot name it, maybe they cannot point on it, but they know that there is something wrong. So as long as you give them the as little as they can just put their hook on, the better for you. Because these are the photographers, like if you take a look at some of the big names right now, um, of course, like everybody has a style, everybody has something particular that they want to show or say to the world, and that's great. And I'm not saying that everyone's work is perfect, but the people that are working a lot are making sure that their work looks like it's perfect. So they're thinking about all these little tiny things that they have to just manage and do the puzzle with, so that their client is like, "Whoa, this is perfect." Yeah. So I think this is something that we should go for. Thank you. It was my styling and accessories too. Okay. Absolutely. Styling and accessories, when we talk about color in color, are just so, so important. So I don't know who was your stylist. Was it you or was it a different person? But kudos to that one. Yes, good feedback. Thank you, guys. What does an art director editor do when they receive a series of photos like this? Well, they can do different things, and it really depends whether this particular photo shoot is a submission or if it's a inquiry. Like if you are sending to them your photo shoot, this is a submission. So they haven't approached you, but you want to work with them. So therefore, you're shooting an editorial, sending it to them. This is a submission. When it's a commission, it's when the magazine is approaching you, calling you, or just sending you a DM and be like, "Hey, we really want to work with you. We want you to do an editorial on this or that topic. So we want to gather a team. It's gonna be this amount of money for you. This is a commission." So when we talk about submissions, sometimes if they see a potential in your photo shoot, they can be like, "Hey, can you fix this and that? I want a particular image to be brighter," or what would they usually say is that I want to have consistent throughout the images. Or they can be like, "Hey, sorry, we've got a lot of submissions, so we're too busy." Sometimes they might not even answer. So, yeah, this is about submissions. When we talk about art directors on commissions, they're probably going to be like going over these little details in advance. And if there is something that you, for example, you've talked to them, you're doing the photo shoot, you're done with that, you're cooling the images, like you're selecting which one is going to stay and which one is going to go, and then you are going to retouching, you're sending the retouched images, and they're like, "Hey, you know what, I want to have consistent throughout them, so fix this and this one." And the good thing is that usually when you're doing commissions and you're doing the selection process, they're always sending you, like, I don't remember a time when I didn't have a PDF like that. They're usually sending you the order of the images. So you can see them two by two, right? Okay. So when you do that, even if you don't have consistency throughout image number 1 and image number 6, you are going to aim for consistency between image 1 and 2. And then you're going to take image 2 and 3. And this way you're going to build your consistency. So Andrew, I hope that I answered your question, but if I haven't, just let me know, okay? And I'm gonna go over this again, okay? Diana, you know what? Um, you actually send us two more, um, six more images. So I'm just gonna go over three of them and give you just a quick feedback because I'm afraid we won't have time. So I want to make sure that we've got time for everyone. So this is the second photo shoot of yours. And I saw it and I was like, whoa, this is a gorgeous location. This is such a cool dress. So what can we do in a situation like this? We can try and squeeze everything out of it, right? So I think it's a very beautiful photo shoot, but it needs just a tiny bit more. So what I would suggest you, because I just want to make sure that there is time for everyone. What I would suggest you is to go over our episode with Amber Gray, because it's a beautiful episode, and your works actually really reminded me of her work. So there is a link for you guys. It's down in the comments, photographypodcast.net. You can just go to our guest section and you can find Amber Gray. Her work is, in my opinion, really resembles, like, when I saw your work, and I was like, oh, I remember. Um, I should remind her to listen to Amber's podcast, and also, of course, you probably know, but Bella Kodak. Bella is an amazing artist. I love her very much, and here is a link for you. I think she's also doing something that will be very helpful for you. I don't know if you have seen her work. Probably you have, but those two are going to be of a great importance if you haven't listened to the podcast yet. Okay, so let's go to the next person. Filiana, I saw that you're actually in the comments, so that's so cool. I want to congratulate you for this particular image because I love it. It's looking just so feminine but strong but so nice. I love it, love it, love it. What I would suggest you, I really appreciate the fact that you are so brave with this angle. The only thing that I would suggest you to just touch up on that photo, and it's not a mistake. I wouldn't say that it's a mistake because it's not something that you can fix right away on the photo shoot. So I know that you've done a really good retouch on the face over here. Look at the shadows and bright sides, and I love it. I love it. I really like your retouch there. But I think you should also go over the background. Like, for example, this thing over here, this thing over here. The fact that this door, is it a door? It's not very straight. Little simple things like that can really make it or break it. So I would suggest you to be a bit more careful with the background. You can still do that, and you can go over the background, which I think is so cool, and you can post it again. These things, little wrinkles with the shirts, I find something completely normal, and I wouldn't change even. Maybe I would try and fix just a tiny bit this part of the shirt, but I really don't think it's something super frustrating. The only thing that's super frustrating for me is the background over here and here, because right now my eye is like, okay, where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to go? And I can tell you why. Because just like on this photo, same goes for this one, there is something very particular. You're forgetting about the catch light. And the catch light is just so important. If you had a catch light over here that is visible for the viewer, I think this part wouldn't be so distracting. But right now, because there is no something particular, people say that when we don't have catch light in the eyes on a photo, we look like we're a little bit dead. And yeah, I can agree on that, to be honest. So, not that we're dead, but that we are just lacking a little bit of something interesting going on. Because eyes are so interesting and they're very important. So if you have a little bit of light over here, I think you can, as I said, this can make it or break it for you. So when you add just a tiny bit light in the eyes over here, you're gonna make sure that the face is a little bit lighter. And I think this is going to help you because right now the shirt is very bright. So this is your focal point. This is the place that where my eyes are going straight to, simply because it's in the center, which is not a problem in this case, in my opinion. But if the face was a little bit lighter, it would have been perfect. Yeah, and pretty much that's it on this one. So yes, you are. Okay, so if you got any questions on that image, go ahead. Now is the time. Okay, and let's go to the next one while you receive that message and just hi Peter. So oh, we've got a lot of people from the Netherlands. Hello Peter, how are you? Good to see you here. Okay, so let's go to this image. Again, you're missing um, the eyes when they're not that lit. So you need just a little bit of catch light over there. And I can see your comment. Thank you so much. I have so many things to consider. Okay, I just saw the door. You just saw the door. Well, you know what? That's something normal because I know that you haven't been shooting for like ages. So that's something normal. And that's the whole idea behind having feedback from a person who have worked for quite a while now. And yes, in this case, in this particular case, I'm talking about myself because I've got a lot of experience behind my back, but you can also go to other people that are also very experienced. So that's my point. When you do something, the more time you um, put in it, the better you'll become. So don't worry about the door. It's something absolutely normal. So the next time you'll see it, right? In this particular image, what I wanted to say is that there is a lot of weight because of this hairstyling and because of the shoulders. So when I do that, look at me. I'm just a normal person standing here, right? You're looking at me, everything is perfectly fine. But when I do that, look how much weight I'm bringing to this part of my body, right? So this is exactly what we've got. And now it's looking fine because I don't have my hair down. But if I do, this is what we're going to have. So it's too much on the same place. And it's a bit concerning. So maybe if you have a styling like that in the hair, I mean, what if you do something like that? Then you're going to have like straight line and this puffy hair. It's gonna look better. What if you do something like that for the photo or something like that? Then you're going to have enough space for the puffy hair on this side. And you're going to accentuate on the hairstyling. Because in my opinion, with a hair interesting as that one, you should definitely go for it. Also, you guys have to be very careful when you ask your model to do that because look what's going on. It's getting closer to the camera, and my neck is getting bigger than my face. So that's something that you should be very careful with. And when we do that and we add that, you see, it's getting even harder for the viewer. So it's a beautiful pose, but with a different hairstyle. So I have a little. I've got a little challenge for you. Why don't you guys try and find a really good hairstylist and stick to them and be like, hey, I want to do a photo shoot just for hair. And hair is super difficult. If you remember, the very first episode of the creative process here on YouTube was actually with a guest that is doing a lot of hair photo shoots. And oh, hair is so difficult. So do that. Try and see how to handle the hair with the poses. Don't stick to styling. I know it's the fashion photography podcast and it's weird to say that, but if you want to learn how to work also with the styling the next time, it's like building a light setup. You start with one thing and then you can add other stuff as long as you know how the first thing is working. So add hair this time, and then when you do a photo shoot like that, you just have to sit down, look at your images, and be like, okay, what dress or what type of clothing would fit this particular hairstyle? Because for this one, I can tell you that something lean, something that was just sticking to her body would have worked much better. So think about these little things and just try and learn. Maybe do this little exercise. So Peter is here from the Netherlands. Oh, and we've got people from Holland. That's so cool. I really want to go to Holland, by the way. I've always wanted to, and I'm going right after this COVID situation is over. Kater- Katerina, am I pronouncing it right? I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm gonna try again. Um, Yeah, Andrew says that he's hunched over. Absolutely. This is a great advice. Thank you. Thank you, Filiana. I'm very happy when you guys are happy. So let's go to the next and final image from Filiana. So I really like this one. There are things that you can improve, but I really like that you're going straight for the hard things because it is hard to shoot in a bathtub. For you guys that have not done that yet, there is another episode for you that I wanted to suggest to you guys. It's a podcast related to bathtub photography. I just posted the link in the comments so you can click it. You can look at it later. Stay with me now because there is a bit more feedback that is coming your way. So I love this image because, as I said, you're going straight for the hard things. And it is really hard to shoot in a bathtub. There are some little tips and tricks that I can see you have. It's a pull. Okay, guy. Okay, good, good, good. So, but shooting is in water is simply difficult. It's difficult for both you and your model, especially if they're not used to this. I was all over the girl at the whole shooting. Exactly. So great pronunciation, said Katerina. Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool. Okay. So, yeah, it's difficult to shoot in water. But what you can do in a situation like this is that when we shoot in water and we want it to look good, in my personal opinion, you should go for a light that is not going to um, take over the attention of your viewer. Let's put it like that. And in this case, you can see that she has a strip of light from the top of her head till like for as long as we can see her body. So this is something that I personally would change. This is my opinion. So you don't have to necessarily go for it, but try for the next time to see whether you would like it to tilt a little bit that light to make it like more of a 45 degrees or something like that. And just make sure that it's not the same brightness from here till like about here. So be careful on that one the next time. And what I would suggest you is also to be very careful with the retouch because, like, even when the image is small, I can now see that she's having a lot of freckles or on her nose, but she's not having any on her cheeks, and that is so awkward for everybody who is looking at retouch on skin with freckles. I know it's hard to retouch freckles, but there are some channels, even over, of course, over here on YouTube, of course, that people are really giving great advice on how to do that. And I can just in a minute I'll ask you a question, guys, and I'm gonna go over and look for the channels that I love the most to share with you. Or maybe, you know what, let's do that once the live is over. I'm going to ask you for some tips and tricks, and you can send me suggestions, and I can post in the comment these links of the people that are really really like retouching. She had removed her own freckles on her cheeks. Oh, that's awkward. Okay, it's my very first time hearing something like this, but I understand. I understand. Okay, if it wasn't you, that's fine. Okay, so, however, talking about retouch on her face, look how smooth the skin is over here, and look at this patch. So when people are retouching, sometimes they stick to just the face, and sometimes even makeup artists do the same. They're doing the makeup only on their model's face, and it's not just it. So you've got to be careful also with things like that. Um, with makeup or surgery are asking people. I also got interested, to be honest. Okay, so let's stick to the photos while you're answering those comments. I think this is eucalyptus. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm very sure it's that plant, and I really like it. But I think it's not really helping you with the situation because everything apart from the scarf over here is looking very monochromatic again. And this it's just sticking out of everywhere. So what I would do now if I were you is to just bring a little bit of color to it. I know you did not desaturated it. I know it's because of the plant, but it's Photoshop magic, so you can do it in order to. I think it's okay to use Photoshop as much as it's making your image more interesting, and if it's not messing up the face of your model. That's what I'm preaching. Okay, so yeah, I would gi- give a little bit of color to these sleeves over here. And right now, to be honest with you, I know what this is. I know it's a part of the scarf. But if I was just a viewer, I wouldn't be very sure if this is helping you or if it's harming your image. Because my eyes are again going here, 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 here. All these sticks over here. So, but the client, yeah, you hated this, but the client loved it. Sometimes it happens. However, now you can do whatever you can. Like you can bring a little bit of green to it, and I think it's going to look more interesting. I also think that you should remove this scarf because right now it's a bit too much. And if you do that, uh, I also think, by the way, that this scarf is telling to the viewer that this is water. And if you remove it, it's going to look like it's just mist behind her. It's going to be much more interesting, in my opinion. But that's, as I said, my personal opinion. Also, something interesting that you cannot always change because it's not just you, it's just a general advice. Viviana, it's not something particular because of you, it's just a general advice to everyone. Whenever you feel like your model is just not having enough in their face, you can simply ask them to close their eyes and be like, I'm going to count to three. On three, open your eyes and be like, one, two, three, and shoot in this particular moment. And people are amazed. People usually don't really know what you're going to do. So they're like, "Ugh, okay." And they're having a little bit more affection in their eyes. So you can do that next time, guys. Filiana, tell me, was it helpful for you? Do you have any particular questions, something that I did not share, or maybe I shared too much? Okay, so I'm gonna go to Richard. I know, Richard, that you're in the comments, so say hi. And I think it was awesome because you guys can see bathtub, bathtub. This one is a real bathtub. Filiana was using a pool. Here we've got a bathtub. So you're welcome, Filiana. So for this particular photo, Richard, I would say that my eyes are really not very sure. Hello there, where to go. So I've got eyes. They're so very interesting. And I also got a tattoo here, a tattoo over there, a rose over here. And there is no diagonals in this image. So maybe the next time, try and think, even before putting the camera in front of your face, be like, what is the thing that I want to show in this photo? Is it more of a portrait when you want to show more of the face of the model? Or sometimes a portrait does not have to even include a face, it has to be what this person in front of the camera is actually bringing to you, to the viewer, and so on. So try and do that. Think about the particular thing that you want to show. Sometimes they're, you know what, they're different people. For example, I'm the type of photographer who is like, I want to know that I want an image like that with a model in a pose like that. And there are sometimes the people that are like, I just want to see what's going to happen. I want you to move and I'm going to pick the right moment. And it's totally fine to be whatever you want to be in between these two or in between the two of them. So, um, whatever you do, whatever your approach is to the model, I think it's very important to know in advance what do you want to show in the image. I think this is super important because if you want to, for example, do a beautiful portrait, you'll be like, move the way you want to, but you'll be able to just focus on her face, for example. And right here, the crop is a bit odd to me, especially when you crop right here on the elbow. So it's not really good for you guys to crop on elbow or over here. So whenever you've got joints, just don't crop there. You can crop like over here, for example. It's going to be perfectly fine. You're going to have a bit more face to it. So that's my feedback. I'm not sure. It's a beautiful image. It looks interesting, but I don't know where to look at because, for example, this part is very dark. This is way too bright. So think about that, and let's go over the basics when we talk about composition. If you're not sure what to do, you can always stick to the initial composition rules, okay? I think that would be good. Because as I said right here, I cannot really see any of her clothes. So I'm not sure if it's a fashion photography. And when we talk about fashion photography, we've got this image, which I actually really like the fact that you're so bold with the background. I really find that so cool because your models are also having tattoos. Your background is super busy. So I think you can play with this in a really nice way. But I don't really know where to look at again. So as you can see, very busy background, but also very busy clothes. So with these tattoos, maybe the girls would have looked better with something just in a more simple fabric where I would be able to just look at them and be like, oh my God, they're like piece of art. Like they're part of a beautiful painting. Look at this background and them. They're working together. And right now, there is so much fabric going on and so much texture that I'm not very sure what to look at. Um, I think it's very hard to pose two different models. So I really appreciate your effort there. Thank you so much for that. It's true you say very little they went into this at the time. Okay. Okay. Thought. Okay. Very little thought went into this at the time. Yeah, so you definitely need to do this in advance. I find it very important because most of the people actually believe that photography is just clicking. And photography is actually this clicking part is like 1% of the whole thing. So you've got to be careful with that. You've got to think about the little things in advance. Like, for example, over here, you've got the problem that Filiana had in one of the previous images. You see how much things are going on over here? We've got strips, we've got tattoos, we've got hands, we've got hair. You have to think about these little things. Like, for example, you can try and ask her to do exactly the same thing, but you're going to get rid of these deformations over here and over here. If you simply be like, hey, can you do this pose? But like, instead of pushing her arms like that, she can be like this. And you see, I'm instantly losing this fat part over here. It's looking like that. And I think this is going to make the image so much better. Same goes for this knee over here. So guys, whenever you're shooting a model, you've got to be very careful with poses like this. You see, the camera is 2D and our eyes are seeing 3D. So whenever I do that, you know that I've got length over here and here, but you cannot see it because of the camera. So you've got to be careful with that. For example, you, Richard, can go a little bit higher with your camera or be like, hey, can you just loosen up this leg and choose from there again. But make sure that every time you're able to see the length of the limbs of your models. So I think with this, we're finalizing the images from this folder. And we've got one other project that is Belinda's project. Belinda, I think it's very, very late for you, right? Not sure. Let me check. Yeah, Belinda said it's 12:30, like an hour ago. So I'm very sorry about that. I hope that you're going to I hope that you are still able to stay with us. Okay, so let's go over your images. Huh. Let me share my screen with you guys. Okay, so it's a beautiful editorial. I really like it. I like Asian culture. I like everything about it. And I really find it very interesting that you're having uh, a model that is not Asian. So I like the makeup. There's not something particular that I can say about this image, simply because it's a very standard image. What I would do if I were you is just crop it over here, for example, this way. I would get rid of those two white and very distracting thing, and I'll get a little bit more of the flowers. Maybe the situation was not um, letting you do that, so I understand, to be honest. I really like this particular photo because you've got the diagonals that we talked about. We've got very interesting makeup. Oh, Richard, you're welcome, of course. You've got really interesting makeup, and I can see that there's been a conversation between you, the makeup artist, and the stylist. Because look at this, guys, it's just going so well. Honestly, I love this image. Seriously. Um, I can see the little spots over here that are absolutely normal, and if I were you, I wouldn't touch them also. But it's because I'm a fan of the natural look. So I've got for you, I've got comments overall. It's not just good, so don't worry. I think that this is very distracting on the back of the image. So maybe you couldn't have fixed it on the day, but you can fix it on post. Also, the image is the the building behind is falling a little bit. If you can see that, I would also fix that. But overall, you've got good communication with your model, or your model is very good, or you're very good. Maybe you're not having a good communication, but someone on one of the sides is just good. So, congrats on that. Some people may say that you've got to fix this over here and this over here and just make it all red. I don't really think it's a problem because your model is having a very strong face on each and every photo, at least for me. However, I don't really understand, and this is my comment over here. I don't really understand if this is the same project. And if it's the same project, I can't tell because the model is looking very similar to the previous one. So if it's the same project, I would say that what happened? Like when you guys are shooting, so let's talk a bit more about that. I think that there are different editorials, to be honest, and I really hope so. But when we talk about this, we actually touch up on that at the beginning of this conversation. When you've got editorials, it's very important to realize that there have to be a link. And when you're in a studio, it's very easy, I would say, because you can do a particular light and stick to it. You can rearrange the images and so on. But when you're outside, it's just a whole different story because whenever you're outside, your whole surrounding is changing. So it's very, very important for you to know where you and that there will be a link between the different photos. So, for example, this link can be a certain color, can be the makeup that is not changing at all, the hair that is not changing at all. Of course, the styling must change because it's a fashion photography, but you've got those things, or maybe even two things, like let's say your hair is always the same and you're sticking to colorful makeup, but the makeup is going to change. Like, for example, on two of the images, you've got yellow makeup, and then on two more, you're going to go for orange makeup, maybe in the same shape on the eyes, let's say. but you're going to have this link throughout the images, because when you're outside, it can be very difficult. Like the light is changing, especially if you're just relying on the sun. The surrounding is changing, your model poses are changing. So these are, in order to make sure that it's not going to be like a mesh up, you need to stick to having one or two things that are going to be just amazing. So let's go over these three images, and you see what just happened. So we've got one color over here, much brighter over here, and then we've got yellow. And this way, this yellow is definitely losing the link in having a consistent work, especially when we go outside. However, if this is one editorial and this one is another, you're doing just great. There are little things that I would get rid of. For example, in this particular image, these tubes over here, this broken window, I would just make sure that you've got something very bright on the front and something very bright on the back. I would just try and make sure that my viewer's eye is going to the thing that I want to show. So for me, this is very important. On this particular image, I don't have a lot to say. Like, it's a good image. I wouldn't really necessarily remember it afterwards. Again, because of the lack of catch light on the eyes. You guys, when we lose this touch between the model and the viewer, we're really losing the viewer. So you've got to be careful with that. Also, there is a lot of going on with the two earrings and the bracelet. So maybe you can, the next time when you're shooting something like this, you can be, hey, stylist, why don't we remove one of the earrings? Because there is a text right here that is making it too much on the same time. So overall, that's it. But I think with a comment on the yellow, you're doing great with this. I really, really love the first editorial. I truly believe that these are two different editorials. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And then we've got our very first image with a man. So I can see that. I just want to show you the three different images. Okay. This one is a classic portrait of a man. You know, hand in the pocket, he's walking. What I would change in this image is something that maybe you could have changed on the day of the photo shoot. I think for a man, especially, also for a woman, but for a man, I think it's very important for them, for every model, to be honest. It's very important to start with the leg that is closer to the camera. So this way you're gonna have a cross like that. Forgive my hands, it's the allergy. So if you're like that and you're like that, you see the difference? The front leg is always gonna look longer if it's the one that's crossing. So that would be my advice for you. And also, his hands are almost at the same position, like not in the same position, but at the same position. So for the next time, you can try and bring that hand, for example, a little bit up, like over here. He can look like he's running, or you can put it down like over here, but they won't be at the same level. And I think this is going to help. For this image, I love the idea. I think it would have been better if you just stick a little bit more to this side and just um, turn the camera this way to make sure that, again, your viewer is looking at his eyes. But great idea, and your model is very, very good also. Okay, for this particular image, same thing with the hands, same level. Be careful with that. Again, we're missing the catch lights. And because it's a central composition, everything is centered, and I'm just a little bit, I'm not having the balance because of this building sticking out. So maybe you could have just turned him towards this part, ask him to go over here. This way you could have cropped the building out and have a little bit of more dynamic composition. I think that would help you because this roof It's really, really nice. And I think it could have helped a lot. But even now, the image is looking great. As I said, guys, these little comments are not so much to, actually, they're not at all to shame you or something at all. Like, my initial idea is to just help you to be a better photographer tomorrow. So, aw, that was such a sweet comment. Thank you. Virginia, thank you. This portfolio review, very helpful. Thank you. So, for all of you that stuck around and wanted to be a part of a portfolio review like this, actually, that's good news. George and I discussed, and there will be another live portfolio review just like this one next Monday. And you can guys actually join me here live. And for those of you that will join the portfolio review, again, spots are very limited, so be careful with that. Be quick and join the newsletter. Let me show you how to do that. Okay. So, for those of you that are going to do that, you can just prep a question that you wanted to ask me. So, all you've got to do is to go to photographypodcast.net, and there you're going to see a button over here, join our newsletter. That's all that you have to do. When you join our newsletter, I'm going to send you an email. Me and George, of course, we're going to send you an email with the next steps that you have to fulfill in order to become part of a portfolio review like this. And as I said, it's going to be a bit different because you'll be able to join me here live. Like, you'll be right here next to me, next to this little window. And yeah, we'll be able to talk. So don't be shy because it's an opportunity that we've actually never given before. So the podcast has been around for the past 5 years, and this is the very first time we're doing that. So yeah, you're having a unique chance over here. Um, so definitely join the newsletter, and yeah, I'll be waiting for you here. Spots are limited. Be careful with that. And what else? What else? Oh, of course, you can simply follow us on photography underscore podcast on Instagram. And guys, of course, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification bell, share it with your photography friends because this is really, really helpful for us. I hope that this portfolio review was helpful to you guys. Thank you so much for the lovely comments. Thank you that you were so um, active in the comments. It was super amazing to be here with you. And of course, don't forget that the podcast is renewed. So there are new episodes on photographypodcast.net. And of course, we're on Spotify, iTunes, and so on. So these are episodes that you will not find on YouTube. That's very important. So, of course, subscribe to the podcast and listen to the new episodes. We've got some amazing conversation about sustainable photo shoots in the last one, and we're going to release a next episode this Wednesday. So, guys, thank you again so much for sticking around, and I'll see you soon. Maybe this Wednesday, or maybe next Monday. That would be lovely. You are lucky. Oh, that's so cute, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great day.